Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today, this afternoon, on Inspiring Time with Juliet, right here on Voice Africa Radio Show. I don't know if it is afternoon where you are, morning, or maybe evening or night time, whatever it is that is happening where you are. I just want to say thank you for joining us. Okay, may the Lord bless you. May His face shine upon you today. We have a wonderful topic, and I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. You need to listen up, okay? Invite your friends, invite your families, invite people that know, that you know may be crazy. Maybe crazy, okay, in your family, okay? So just invite people, share this page, okay, and bring your questions. We're happy to answer them. And also, please do comment as we go along, because that encourages us and that helps us to know that you're listening and we can answer your question as much as we can do. Okay, so before I introduce my guest, what are we talking about today? We're talking about mental health. Okay, mental health among the African community. So there might be somebody that you feel is crazy in your family, or a friend that you feel is crazy amongst your friends, or someone that you know within your social, social background, social, and it could be someone that you've seen, that knows that you know that they're pretending or they're behaving in one way or the other that is not quite right, and you are wondering what is going on in this person's life. Mental health, what is it? Before I show you a video about mental health, I want to describe to you what mental health is all about. Well, the World Health Organization actually defined or described mental health as a state of well-being, a state where there is no stress, you're emotionally stable, and you are physically stable. You are, psychologically stable as well. You are productive, you're fruitful, and, you're able to contribute within your society. So this is what mental health is about. Now, when you're not able to do all of that, when you're not able to cope emotionally, when you're not able to cope psychologically, when you're not able to cope with the things that is happening, when you're not stable in that way anymore, and you're not able to contribute both to your family, both to your society, then you have a mental health illness. And this is what we'll be talking about today. Do you know of anyone that suffers from depression, someone that suffers from anxiety, or someone that behaves abnormal, someone that was okay and all of a sudden they are not anymore, someone that is isolating themselves? There are so many characteristics, so many factors, that we're going to look into. So get a cup of tea, get a drink, sit down and enjoy the show. Okay, so I'm going to use this opportunity to introduce to you my special guest this afternoon. Her name is Naomi, and she's a pastor. She specializes in mental health, and she's also specialized in learning disability. If there's anyone that can discuss, that can talk about this topic, it is her today. And I want to use this opportunity to say thank you so much, Pastor Naomi, for joining me this afternoon on Inspiring Time with Juliet. I know you traveled a long way. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on the show, and good afternoon, viewers, wherever you're watching this show. This show is a discussion that it's high time we bravely discuss about what is affecting our families and what is affecting our communities. So yes, is there someone crazy in your family? Thank you, Juliet.
You're welcome. Okay, just before we actually talk about mental health, who suffers from it and the factors that affect mental health, let's watch this video and you can just comment and tell me what you think about it. Let's watch it for a few minutes. Thank you.
It is the gray cloud that comes over you and obscures all positive thought. You are living in a state that is not to you frequently worth it. You would, for that moment, prefer to be dead.
it's a real illness and it's something that the person can't control when they are experiencing it. I call it the thief in the night. It comes in and so disables you that it renders you helpless and you really can't do much. And if you feel like you have nothing to live for, if you feel completely hopeless, then what's the point of getting out of bed?
Oh, I remember him. It's hard because I know it's an uphill battle. I know what life is going to be like for him, and I wish it was easier. My greatest fear would be that he would be susceptible to suicide.
I think I could have avoided a whole lot of unnecessary pain if I had been able to be more honest with my husband, of all people. Why would I want to hide anything from him? And that just speaks to the stigma associated with depression, that I could hide something that big from him, do whatever I could to trick him into thinking that everything was okay.
It doesn't say I'm just going to affect the rich person or I'm just going to affect the poor person. The mental illness covers all different races, nationality, and no matter how much money you got.
It's horrible. I mean, it's like somebody's dying in the family, and it's very hard on everyone.
There were a lot of times when I said, I don't know how much more I can take, how much more of this, can I bear, try as we might. This was a moving train that we threw ourselves on the tracks to stop, but we realized that eventually we could slow the train down, but the train was eventually going to run over us.
Between the medication and the therapy, I got better. No matter how bad it is, there's a better day waiting.
My name is Gina Stevens. I grew up as a figure skater.
Okay, so from watching that clip, I don't know what you got from that clip that we've just shown you. Mental health affects anybody. It affects children. It affects adults. It affects people from every social background, every race. It affects people that from any social class. It affects anyone, from children to adults. Okay, so there was something that I was watching the other day, and it was about a child about 5-6 years old that was suffering from depression, and she was clinically diagnosed as depressed. So children can suffer depression, they can suffer mental health, as well as the adults. Men, women can do. It doesn't matter what sex you are, you go through mental health. And you can go through mental health at any point in your life. It doesn't mean that you're going to be in that state all the time. You can snap off it for a little while. Some people stays there for a longer period of time. Some people stay in it and then come out. Some stay longer. Some never go back. And, some statistics have actually proven that you go through mental health illness problem at some point in your life. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mr. Yohanami?
Thank you so much, Juliet, for this show. And like I said earlier on, it is high time us as the black people, whether you're black Afro-Caribbean or you're black British or black American, it's high time we address it. What you said is actually true. Whenever someone is actually admitted into hospital in mainstream mental health services, before they are discharged to go home, there's always relapse indicators that are identified, because, our hospitals, they don't want to keep admitting the same person for the same reason. We hope that when someone comes into hospital, whether they've been sectioned under the Mental Health Act or they've come in voluntarily, we hope that after their assessment and treatment, they go home to recover. But then there are factors that resist that recovery process, and I know we are going to come into it. So sometimes it's not always a straightforward kind of recovery. There's, like what you've said and like what was being discussed in that video, there are days that are gray. There are days that you just people just want to end it. And there are days when someone feels there is hope. So there are times where someone really wants to recover, but there are resisting factors, whether those resisting factors are within or they are external, they are there.
They're there.
So it's not up to them most of the time. There are factors that affect that recovery process. So that's why sometimes you see people coming in and out of mental health services. It's not entirely up to them. Sometimes it could be the change of our government. It depends on who is funding what, where the money is coming from to fund those people who are suffering from mental health problems. And especially here in the UK, honestly, you know, I know when I did my NEST training, we did a module that is power and politics that affect health. Health, your health, my health, health of the nation, it depends on who is in power. Depends on what political party is in power.
Did you hear that? It depends on which party that is in power. It affects your mental health. Your health in general can be affected by whoever that is in power. So use your vote wisely.
Yes.
Wisely. Mental health. Okay. So we're actually concentrating on the people of color at this moment. We're concentrating on the people that we call people of color, from the black community. And we are examining some of the reasons why they can go into mental health illness, when they some of the factors that kind of, you know, make them more prone, more susceptible to mental health illness. And one of those things that I find, as Naomi, is the racism, you know, that they go through, and poverty, you know, because the statistics have actually shown that people from the black community are more likely to be impoverished, not able to have enough to feed themselves. They are more in that poverty line than any other, you know, race. And because of that, then they suffer with depression, go through anxiety, mental health problems more than their other counterparts.
You're very right. And a lot of our family members have suffered from depression, and they go undiagnosed. That is the most dangerous part. I remember one radio show when people were talking about Broadmoor prison, and people were saying, oh, it's a prison that is full of murderers and all that. What about the people who are crossing roads? Because at least those who are contained in a prison, that risk is contained. But there are people out there who we don't even know what they are carrying in their pocket. There are people with a whole lot of tablets. Today is crossing roads and they just want to end their life. There's someone probably walking through a bridge and they're looking down to say, I just want to throw myself down. So yes, these things are there. And I think when we are talking of the causes and what is contributing to it within our own African communities, this is a very difficult discussion.
It is. It is quite deep, because there are so many factors that could cause or make you more at risk of having mental health problems. One of those things that we talked about is immigration, isn't it? You know, being moved from one country to the other. You know, most of us actually come from another country to settle here in the United Kingdom. And that process has got so many stressful situations, has exposed us, made us more exposed to suffering mental health problems. Do you want to just take us through that?
That is one of my most deepest kind of things that I like to talk about. So let's look at an African person.
Yeah.
The time you are migrating from Africa, I'm from Zimbabwe, so I'll give you an example of Zimbabwe. Probably your father has sold cows for you to be able to get a ticket. And the expectation is already high. They are telling you, okay, we've sold cows, we've sold this, we've borrowed money from this person, and we are buying you a ticket to go to Britain. When you get to Britain, we are expecting you to build us houses. We are expecting, because already there are different reasons why people migrate. Sometimes it could be political, it could be economical. So I want to focus on both.
Yeah.
It could be someone who is coming from Rwanda, Sudan, where there is war. So they are coming here to seek refuge. And if it could be someone coming from a country where the economy is really struggling and they are coming here for economic reasons. So the expectation for an economic migrant is already high from their family. They want to improve the financial status of their family. because so-and-so's son went to Britain. Within a year, they managed to ship cars, they managed to do this. So already the African man, the African woman is landing in Britain on a mission. So without realizing that there are controls that are going to put that mission on hold. Number one, your visa.
You haven't got a stay.
Okay, so most of us, when we came to Britain, we didn't need visas when I came to Britain. But we didn't realize that after 6 months, you needed to renew your visa either as a student or you go back home. And a lot of people have gone underground. They are now illegal immigrants. These are people who are professionals from their own native countries. And now they have to live with families. They have to live under the circumstances of somebody else. And these people have left their families back home. Wives or husbands and children are growing, and time is ticking by. And why I come back to the issue of it depends on what government is in power. When it was Labour government, they relaxed a lot of immigration laws. So a lot of Africans were able to train as nurses, and then they can get work permits. But now things have tightened up. So that whole journey of that African person coming into Britain to, and for better life, to improve the financial status of their country is already hindered because there are already controls. And then again, to open a bank statement for you to get a house, for you to get a job, they are already frustrated in the whole system.
I mean, there was you're talking about immigration and people doing another job because they can't physically be employed in the job that they are meant to. They're trained to do. I met a lady. She's working as a care assistant. Okay, and she has been trained as a nurse, but because she's not able to do the exams here, she's working as a hair care assistant, and she's under stress, under pressure, because first of all, she's complaining that she doesn't have a stay, and even if she doesn't have the money to apply for all the applications as well and things like that. And also, she's working as a care assistant when she know that she is a nurse, a trained nurse. She could be doing, nursing work, but she's hindered. The way she sounded, she was so depressed. She was unhappy. These things can make people, go into mental health problems. That's one aspect. That's one aspect. And people are going through different things at the moment, even as we speak at the moment, Just let us know what you're going through, if you have known for anybody that goes through these mental health problems and what effect is having in their own life. Thank you, Hannah Max Codini, for joining us. He says, good afternoon to you all. Keep listening, commenting, and sharing. Thank you so much. And, thank you, Hannah. He says, Lillian says, good afternoon, Julia. Thank you, Ma. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And also, he says, please do share the programs. Please do share as we go on. Thank you, Denika Fayobe, for joining. And Oyonike Ige Oladeji, Ditola Adeduke. Thank you so much. And for those that are still joining at the moment, just keep, bringing those comments in. Thank you, Dr. Jennifer. Thank you for joining us. He says, wow, this is great information. Thank you, Ma, and thank you for your support. So we're still talking about mental health and how it affects the African community. Is there anyone that you know that might seem to you to be crazy? What are those things that you actually kind of notice when people are going through mental health problems? Some of the trigger factors, some of the signs, or things that you see that are quite obvious when people are going through mental health problems. Let's just look at those factors a little bit. Well, not just the factors, some of the signs that you see, that the people of color go through.
A lot of times, if we want to be very medical, if we look at the biological factors, someone is not sleeping well, but then again, it's quite normal for people not to sleep well, because people say, oh no, don't worry, sis, you're not sleeping well, maybe because you're eating late or things like that. So someone is not sleeping well. Socially, the person self-isolates themselves.
That's the major one, isn't it? People isolate themselves.
Self-isolation. It's not that because they've been isolated by the family. So there's a family function, they don't want to go. Instead of them to go even to the shop to buy something for themselves, they've lost interest in the things they used to enjoy doing. They used to enjoy doing their hair, they used to enjoy doing their nails, they used to enjoy, socializing with friends and family, going to church, going, to meet friends and family. No.
They can do that.
So that's one of the biggest signs you need to look out for. Is there someone within your family who you haven't seen and they're not returning your calls? They're not even posting any. It could be someone who was very active on Facebook, on Instagram. They've just gone quiet. If it is in a work situation, to those of you who are African managers and you are managing other African staff, you could be working in NHS or social services, wherever you're working. Is there someone within your team, within your staff, who is always running late to work? There could be something, maybe they're struggling to wake up in the morning because they sleep late or they're not sleeping. Are they missing work all the time? So before you start, putting the blame to say this person is not taking their work seriously, let's look at a bigger picture.
The bigger picture before you start blaming. Look at the bigger picture. And what if, they were performing very well before, and all of a sudden their productivity becomes low. And
Noticeably.
There's no interest anymore, they are looking sad. Some of the physical aspects as well.
Sad.
They're losing weight.
Or they're gaining,
adding weight.
Overeating because they can't control it
anymore.
Yeah.
And the hair is unkempt.
Very unkempt.
They're not actually looking after their physical bodies anymore. I see some children. Some of the children actually come into school smelling. And if you look at their lunchbox as well, there's nothing or hardly anything in there. Is there anything that is happening that we are supposed to be aware of or taking notice of, but we are not doing that? Mental health, it affects most families, most people, and we are there to help. We are there to understand. We are there to point them to the right directions. There are other signs as well that you see people begin to. Although people begin to isolate themselves, they're not eating properly, they're not eating well, they don't call people anymore.
They don't call people anymore, they don't return calls. Their way of spending becomes very irrational. Yeah. So if you could be a mother out there and you're watching this program, maybe your child is overusing money. So before you start judging them, there could be something that is happening, or it could be within your marriage. Maybe it could be a husband. You're always blaming your wife for overspending. Maybe because some of the symptoms they actually vary from each person. So if we are looking at the wealthy people, for example, do you know mental health is also very much in existence within the rich and famous?
Absolutely.
Okay, we are talking about poverty. We are talking about immigration. We've got people who are rich, famous, high-profile people, and they suffer from depression. And I know a lady who went to buy a property without even looking at whether they wanted the property or not. They just wanted to spend that money. They just wanted to spend that money. So there are different symptoms. So it's not only about poverty. There are people who are actually doing well in their lives, but they've lost interest in a lot of things. So before we can start judging them, especially if you're somebody who is working and you're a manager or you're a colleague of other people, before you start saying this, even in schools, the child is always coming to school late. Unkempt, maybe because the parent is suffering from mental health and they are struggling, to manage their time. They're struggling to support the child to go to school.
We have to be more understanding. And also the feeling of hopelessness. People do feel hopeless, even from the way they talk, the way they speak sometimes shows you that
they've lost hope.
The feeling of there's no hope, or I've tried that before, it didn't work, or why should I try anymore? They just there's no, give up, basically. And also, taking it further, people start to think of harming themselves. When they isolate themselves and they're still not getting any help, they go into hopeless situation. Hopelessness feeling. It leads to suicide. Feeling of harm. People start to cut themselves, like especially within the white community, they start to cut themselves, start to harm themselves, and eventually they could commit suicide.
And as you know, we've shared before, I used to work in children mental health services. And yes, we do have some Black African, both boys and girls in schools who are suffering from depression. But because our culture, I know we are going to come into that, our culture has created a barrier for us not to explore into the reasons why this child's behavior has all of a sudden changed, or it could be within adulthood. Why is my sister or my brother or my work colleagues' behavior suddenly changed? So yes, people do self-harm, but mostly, like what you have said, research does show that people of color, black people, they because we are naturally people who don't like pain, especially when it's self-inflicted. So the people do harm, and when a black person start taking overdose, in most times that suicidal attempt succeeds because they've had enough.
They've had enough.
They've had enough.
And they have plans.
They've planned it. Some of them have written actually a suicidal note. And this is actually happening even in detention centers, immigration detention centers. I come back to the issue of immigration because most of us as blacks, we came here through borders. And it is through borders where most of these things are also coming from. And there is actually a paper about immigration and mental health, and we used to call it immigration psychosis, because people start hearing voices, people start seeing things, and people would think, oh, maybe they're playing up. They are not playing up. Someone has reached a form of, to the limit, to the point where immigration is writing them letters of deportation. They want them deported back to their country. They've lost everything that they've ever worked for. And back home, there's nothing for them. When they get home, there's nothing.
There's nothing for them. And then their families back home also expect them to send money, send, physical stuff.
Oh, yes.
As well. And also, one of the things that I wanted to look at for is the older feelings as well, that if you notice maybe a friend or a family member is going through, they begin to be quite forgetful, confused.
Very confused.
Very confused, forgetting things that they usually, that they used to remember. And now they're forgetting things. I mean, I forget things sometimes, but when that becomes quite frequent, quite common, they begin to be confused, forgetful, edgy, angry, even when they're speaking as well, upset more easily and worried about things and scared. You can even see it in their faces. Those are the signs of mental health. Those are the signs of, mental health illness that we're talking about.
These signs, Juliet, you're talking about, they are signs which are described, which are, under, say, symptoms.
Yes.
And they differ from person to person.
Absolutely.
And also they are not different within people of other races, but it's only that they manifest differently. So someone could be on top of the world, but when they get home, you don't want to see them when they get home because there's nothing to look forward to at home. And again, we are talking about immigration, people who are affected through their immigration status, pregnant women. A lot of Africans who get pregnant here. For example, myself, when I got pregnant with my first child, I was back home. So the resources were there. Auntie lives down the road. Uncle lives up the road. Your cousin is bringing food for that food that you're craving for.
Yes.
Everything is within reach. But then in this country, your auntie lives in Manchester. Your other uncle lives in Newcastle. So that can actually self-isolate you. So there's a lot of depression within African pregnant women.
Yeah, the postnatal.
During pregnancy and then after pregnancy. And then again, if you look at language barriers, so there's a lot. So if you're dealing with someone who doesn't speak English, they may not be able to express themselves on every symptom that they're experiencing. But then you, as a member of that family, you would know that my sister is now forgetful. They're very edgy. They're very angry. Or the alcohol consumption is now very high. The way they are spending their money is very unreasonable. So there's a lot of things that, especially the people that know them best, would know that there is a sudden change or there's a pattern. There's always a sudden change. You hear people say, oh, she just changed. What did you do about that change?
Did you ask?
So as us as family, we do have that responsibility.
We do need to look after our own family, especially those people of color. We really need to be looking after our family. Now, another aspect I wanted us to discuss is about when our culture, we're not allowed to talk about mental health.
Oh, Juliet.
We're
not only mental health,
especially in the men.
Not only mental health.
Yes.
There is a lot of things. Okay, have you heard the term blacks don't crack?
Yes, they don't crack.
Are we supposed to be? How are we supposed to be like? We are human beings. We've got emotions, men, our African men, our black men, whether you're black American, whether you're black British or black, whatever black you are, as long as you're black. When we were raising up our black boys, or when our black brothers were being raised up, it's like, you don't need to cry. Yeah, come on, you're a man, don't cry. Boys don't cry, men don't cry. So they grew up with that. So that's why men, because of their ego as well, for a man to sit down, as a health professional, and you're doing an assessment, for a man to sit down and say, listen, I'm struggling. Oh, that takes a lot.
A lot.
So in our African homes, let's encourage our boys to talk to us.
Yes.
Let's encourage our daughters to talk to us. Come on, let's not be unrealistic. Blacks do crack.
They do crack. They do crack, and when they do crack, it takes a lot.
It can be extreme.
It can be quite extreme. There's this boxer that I knew, that everybody knows about, and that went through mental health, and it did cost him his family. It did cost him, it did cost him a lot. And he was so worried about the exposure, what people will say about it. There's nothing wrong about people knowing, as long as you get yourself back on your feet. You know what the Bible says? It says, I'll fall down 7 times,
Seven
get
times.
up, get up again.
Yes,
There's nothing wrong with you, going to get help. Even if people know about it, seek help, And the Bible says when you seek, you find.
Of course, yes.
Hearing voices, okay, and believing that things that are not there. Those are one of the things as well, people being paranoid.
Yes.
One of the signs as well that people of color has got to go through. One of the symptoms among the people of color is seeing things, perceiving things that are not there. Can you talk us through it a little bit more?
When I went into mental health, because there was this thing of, in Africa, there's no mental health. That's what we were meant to believe, that, because we've suffered so much as black people, way back from slavery. So what sort of mental health are you talking about? If people were taken out of their families by force, by the white men, and then they were put in countries, their names were changed, and they were made to work and be servants to these masters. So who are you to complain about mental health? So you can imagine mental health during slavery times. When people are hearing voices, when I first came into mental health, when someone is telling you they're hearing voices, I used to wonder, what are they saying? But you actually see the manifestation when they are now responding to the voice. So they are actually talking to this person. They are having a conversation with this person. This person, they themselves are the only ones who can have a conversation with that person. Sometimes it has got names. Sometimes it's people who are dead. Sometimes people actually go to meet the person. It becomes more of really a danger when the voice begins to tell them, end it, kill yourself, you are not worth to live. Come on, there's a bridge, take poison, throw yourself over. So the voice is very active. And the person, the way I'm talking to you, that's how it sounds to them.
Very clear.
Very clear. Sometimes they're told to write notes, they're told to write things, they're hearing voices. So yes, they do hear voices. And those voices could be commanding. So there's what is called command hallucination, where the voice is actually commanding the person, do this. And they feel they have to do it, because they are in this world that you and me have never been. So they don't understand. They know that we don't understand it. But we seem also not to understand. There are so many people who have worked in mental health services. They still do struggle to understand about the hearing voices. Again, they see things. Sometimes they actually open the door and they're expecting someone to come in. Sometimes the voice does tell them that there's a smell, so they can be changing clothes over and over again, or they can put many other perfumes because there's a smell. The voice is telling them there's a smell. So the voice is there.
Is there.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are some of the signs. People are not able to perform their daily task anymore. You see, some women, they wake up in the morning, take their children to school, do the school rounds and go and do their shopping and do other stuff and things. Once the mental illness sets in, people find themselves not able to do that anymore. They can't go to the post office and do those letters and do those mails anymore. They can't, do all the daily tasks that they are able to do, before. How do we help them? Okay. What are the help that is out there? We're going to take a break now. When we come back, we look at some of the help that is out there, how you can manage mental health problems, And remember, we're just discussing, we're talking about depression at the moment. We're not going into other aspects of mental health because it is huge. But we're just concentrating on depression today. We take a break. When we come back, we look at how do we manage mental illness. Thank you.
Ever wondered how certain people can earn up to £500 a day as a project management or business analysis professional? Even after tax, you can save up for a house and buy your partner nice gifts. According to the Labour Force survey, unemployment rates among graduates is high because they lack labour market experience. Meet Sally. Before applying for work, she felt it was important to gain practical work experience by shadowing seasoned and experienced project managers and business analysts. She found Career Insights. Career Insights delivers intensive weekly and weekend hands-on training sessions in project management and business analysis. 12 weeks later, Sally starts applying for work and within days secures a number of job interviews and eventually secures her first contract role, paying £350 a day as a PMO analyst. We're Career Insights and we make success stories out of people. With over 2,000 placements and loads of success stories, our candidates work for major blue chip companies. We're in the business of changing lives. So how can we help you? Your work experience will cover managing and analysing web and mobile applications, giving you the opportunity to shadow experienced professionals in the field until you're able to successfully lead and manage your own team. Unlike other training companies where your session ends after a week, we automatically secure you a work placement with a leading digital tech company. On securing your first role, you'll receive a work reference for work done. With over 2,000 placements to date, what are you waiting for? Register free today at www.careerinsights.tv. And don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Career Insights TV.
Thank you so much for all those that are still joining us here on Inspiring Time with Juliet. Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I just want to use this opportunity to just read some of the messages and some of the questions that have been asked at this time. Reverend Ebenezer says, how do you relate spiritual issues to mental health? Mental health problems got nothing to do with colors. Trust me, he says. Spiritual things are real, he says. They are real. How do you relate spiritual issues to mental health? Obviously, spiritually, we know that there are some spiritual things. There are some demonic aspects. There are things, some demons, some causes also that affects people's mental health. It could be related to family. It could be a generational thing. It could be gene. It could be your chemical imbalance, your brain chemistry. It could be all of that. Yes, they can be related. Spiritual life and mental health. When you begin to pray more, when you begin to trust God and hope in God more, those symptoms of mental health begin to be reduced. Okay. When you now have some kind of hope, trusting, and God can give you ability, God can give you strength, God can help you out, God can lift you up. Those things can help you, and your mental health, mental health will be a lot more better. So just to answer that. And he says, I know my sheep and they know my voice. So also the voices these people are hearing is true. You're quite right, because when we're talking about the hearing of voices and things like that, the voices that they hear is quite real to them.
The voices are real, but most of these voices, how do we distinguish these voices from the voice like what the man of God is talking about? Most of these voices are negative voices, so these voices cannot be from God. This is a voice telling somebody, kill yourself, end it. You're not worth living. Come on, cut yourself. You see, physically, the person goes to buy a razor and they cut themselves and they want to see the blood coming out. So definitely that is not a voice from God. That is a demonic voice. That is what in mental health we call it a command hallucination, because there is an action that is associated to it. And the manifestation of it is that the person will respond to the voice. You actually see the person actually responding to the voice. Some voices are extreme. They tell the person, go to the graveyard. Yeah. And the person will take a trip to the cemetery. In this country, in England, take a bus or take Uber to go to the cemetery. So that can be a voice from God. That is definitely a commanding hallucination. Yes.
And just to mention some of the other aspects as well, some of the people that have Linda Azuma, barrier breaker. Thank you so much for joining. It says command hallucination. Wow. And also, I just wanted to mention some of the things that South African people will just beat those kids. Yes, they will, because, when children are going through depression and things like that, the parents begin to wonder what is wrong with your children, and they begin to hit them and abuse them. So please, let us be aware.
Juliet, the other thing is that within us parents from the ethnic minority, from black African families, even the Asians suffer this what we are talking about. Me and you, we are Africans. We came here in this country as Africans, but our children have got two cultures. So when they're in the house, they're supposed to be Igbo or Yoruba, or they're supposed to be Shona or Swahili, Kenyan, or whatever your African culture is. And when they are out with their friends, they are supposed to be British. So a lot of our children are actually confused.
Yeah, very confused.
And that's why we find within our black kids there is an identity crisis, which contributes to online bullying, which contributes to depression. The child feels depressed to come back home. They don't want to associate with your culture because they'll rather fit in with their friends. So a lot of them end up just fitting in. So if in quotes, kissing a girl as a girl will make me to fit in, they'll do it. And then when they come home, we go to church. So we need, as I'm talking from experience as someone who worked in mental health services, as Christians, as Africans, we need to have conversations, have dialogue with our children. Yes, we were beaten up when we were growing up. And yes, we after your dad or your mom has beaten you up, you straighten up. But listen, our kids are not going to straighten up. You are pushing them out.
You're pushing them away.
We need to talk.
That's not how to deal with it. Not here in this very culture. In fact, you can be in trouble.
Oh yeah, you can be prosecuted
for doing that. Yeah. Frida Irungo says this is a great topic. Nomsa says well spoken. Martin Linia says, ask me more about that. She says they have withdrawal syndromes. Yes, there's quite a lot that is being commented here. Charity Gift says, can't see anything. I hope you can see us now. Yes, okay. Thank you so much, everyone that have joined us, because we do really appreciate you. We're still talking about mental health. Okay, so how do we manage that then? We've seen some of the symptoms. We've known how it's kind of manifests. I think one of the things that we didn't actually mention about was the biological some of the life experiences that people go through. Some traumatic experiences, such as divorce, separation.
Even with divorce, after divorce, because let's look at it from an angle of children. So these children literally now have got two homes to go to. So they stay with dad during holidays with their father, and they stay with mom during term times. Mom has now married someone else. Dad has now married someone else. They're now they've now have got half brothers, half sisters, step sisters, so there's that sense, especially within our young people, of rejection. So if it is boys, mostly they'll feel their father has rejected them because the father has now married somebody else. If it is a girl, she may struggle to deal with men issues because she's feeling, if my dad walked away from my mom and married another woman, what was wrong with my mom? So what's wrong with me? So it doesn't only affect the parents who are involved in the divorce, it also affects the children. And their lives and how they are going to manage their own relationship. It does affect them. So it affects the whole family. We may not see the signs today, but trust me, in 20 years' time, that girl will struggle to relate with men, to trust men, because she's thinking, what was wrong with my mother? Why did dad leave my mother for another woman? What is wrong with me as a girl child? So it's a very broad, subject. Yeah,
it is big. Yeah. And really, we should be looking after our families. If there's anything that you can do in any way to prevent such traumatic, traumatic things to happen in a child's life, please do in any way that you can. Being the father, being the mother, being the sister, being a family member.
Yeah, a neighbor.
A neighbor.
And then if you look at war, we are looking at other factors.
Yes.
If you look at war, so people who are from war-stricken countries, they suffer from
Traumatic.
PTSD.
Yeah.
You know, the one I'm talking about now, the word is coming out. So they have flashbacks
Yes.
of what happened to them. If you look at people who were physically, raped, again, it affects them. So it's the factors are broad.
Yeah, they're broad.
They are broad. There's so much. Yeah.
And we're looking at online bullying as well, because
Yes.
because this is what the children
Social
are being
media.
exposed to at the moment.
Yes.
If you haven't got more likes on your page, or people are not liking your photos and things like that, it affects the children.
So what it does now, especially for the girl child, because men are not liking, or people, especially men, if they are not liking my picture on Facebook, what am I going to do if I'm dressed like this? Let me open up a bit. Let me show my cleavage. Let me show my legs. Then I get more likes. So because I've got more likes in school, I'm in charge. But no, sweetheart, you're not, because you've actually exposed yourself. Other people can still like your page even if you're fully dressed, so you don't have to expose yourself.
You have nothing to prove to anyone.
You don't have to prove anything
Be
to
your
anyone.
own self.
That's
okay.
right.
And don't allow anyone to bully you. There are actually some help out there for online bullying. There are laws that's being in place at the moment for online bullying. Familiarize yourself with that, and let your parents and whoever that needs to know about it. Be your teacher, be your parents, be anyone that you know that can help you. Thank you so much. Eva Volandi says that is true. Barney says, can people cast a spell or witchcraft for you and then rebrand you as madness? Well, it can be how. There are some spiritual aspects. We're just talking about spiritual things.
So, if we want to go into spiritual aspect of mental health, it's another day.
It's another day,
because there is a spirit that is behind because most of the things that now affects our black community within mental health is the drugs. Those drugs are not kind to us as black people. Those drugs, unfortunately, are not so kind to us if they are overused or if we take them over a period of time. That's why I hope we are going to come to treatment avenues. So if we're talking of treatment pathways, I always advocate for mental health, for people who are suffering from mental health, to go for talking therapies, to go for talking, to go for counseling, for psychological approaches. And then the pharmacological aspect can come in just short-term, temporarily, is just to back up the therapy, and then maybe get withdrawn after some time, because most of those drugs in extreme mental health cases, we're talking of psychosis, they are not very kind. Especially if we talk of a drug like clozapine, it's not very kind to our blood system.
And once you start to take it, you have to take it for a long period of time. And
Yes.
what we are saying, in essence, is that these drugs have got so much side effects in them that you don't want to be on them for a longer period of time. So the safest at the moment is to talk about things.
Again, if we are talking about interventions, listen, mental health is everyone's problem. The way safeguarding of children, the way which is safeguarding of vulnerable adults it's actually everyone's topic, or it's everyone's responsibility. That's what mental health is about. It starts off in the family. So if you are my sister and I've seen that you've changed, I should be able to start talking to you. If I can't talk to you, I can bring in someone within the family to start talking, to identify what are the problems. Again, the church plays a very big role, because if this person is going to church and all of a sudden they've stopped going to church, let's make a follow-up. Why have they stopped coming to church? Is there a problem? Is there a need that they have that they've not yet told us? So we can actually start working with this person before this person's illness actually manifests to a point whereby they now are dependent on medication
for a long period of time. So as churches, we do have responsibilities as well for our members. If your member haven't turned up for the first Sunday, second Sunday, what do you do?
Make a follow-up.
Some churches are better than others, but why is it that some churches are better at following up?
It depends on the structure of the church, because listen, if I haven't seen someone in church for some time, okay, fair and fine, they could have traveled, they could be working, but we need to look at a pattern. Maybe towards the end of the month, this person starts stopping coming to church because their finances, maybe they're looking at, they don't have money for rent, or there could be something that is going on. Again, is there domestic violence going on? So this subject is very broad. It is very broad, and it needs you and me in our family settings to be able to identify there is definitely someone crazy, there is definitely someone who has changed their presentation, and we cannot ignore it. We need to explore what is going on.
Yes. I wish we have so much time to talk about this, but quickly, we've been talking about how do you manage it. We've talked about talking about it, and people looking after each other. Within the Black African community, we need to be our brother's keeper, being able to be looking after ourselves.
Yes.
And also churches as well to be involved in that as well. Yeah. Churches to be able to make sure that their members are well and their well-being are being taken care of. If you haven't seen them, first, second, third Sunday, call them up, follow up. What is, find out what the problem is and see if there's any way churches can also help.
So there's outreach work. I know we're about to round up.
Yeah.
In my church where I go to, there is actually outreach work. So you've got pastors who are out in the community making follow-up on people. And sometimes it could be small issues. Someone doesn't have money for oyster to come to church, or someone just is upset with something within themselves. And then that, you could tell this is something that is creeping up and there should be a pattern. And we need to address it from that fundamental level before things actually explode. Because by the time things explode, you deal with a fire when it's still a small fire. When it's a big fire, you
becomes
need to call the fire engine.
And also some of the management, how to manage it also is having, doing exercise, isn't it? So, you have to make sure that you're exercising.
Yes.
Try and sleep well. Try and settle down to sleep. Don't take too much at a time. Make sure that you will manage your whatever activities or whatever you're doing, projects you're doing, that you can cope with them. Kind of drop some stuff. Get your mind all sorted out.
Eat healthy.
Yeah,
eat your 5 a day.
Yeah,
eat healthy, good portions. Drink your water. Very small things which are not even which are not costly. Like what you're saying, when the Department of Health said 30 minutes a day. You and me, we are supposed to walk 30 minutes a day. Now in Europe and in America, we have got the car syndrome. People drive everywhere. So people are not walking. There is a chemical that your body releases when you walk for the purpose of walking, not walking to go to the shop. When you tell your mind, I'm walking in the park just as a walk, there is a chemical that your body releases, which is good for your mental health.
Absolutely. And try relaxing as well. There are so many things that we could do to help ourselves mentally. I'm sorry, we're going to end this show at the moment, because we're going to end it here. And please keep those comments coming. We will reply them. We will if there are questions, we'll answer those questions. But thank you so much for joining me. And I just want to say thank you so much for my guest today. She's been wonderful, Pastor Naomi. And we're going to have you again next time, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to have her again next time. And thank you for everyone that have joined, that has contributed, that has commented, that have listened and asked questions. Join me again next week. We have another beautiful topic for you. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay blessed. Stay blessed. Thank you. Bye-bye.